And let us begin. So welcome everybody. I look at the names, most of you I know. If there's any of you out there who I don't know, my name is Dan Kerr and I wear many hats here at Historic All Souls Church in Stony Brook. And I have the privilege of being your moderator for today's reading, hosted by our poet laureate, Barbara Southern. And we're very pleased to have our featured reader, Tom Brinson as well. One of the positive things that came out of COVID, that's an interesting subtopic, positive things that came out of COVID is that our poets have now adopted the advice of Mahatma Gandhi and have behaved their way into a new way of thinking. And that poets suddenly, as a result of doing these things virtually, have become very punctual. So we do start on time. Just admitted a few more folks to the room. So ground rules here is if you want to read, there is the chat box open. Please enter your name in chat. And when we get to the open read, I'll call out the names in the order that they appear, and I'll call them out in groups of 3, so you won't be surprised when it's your time to read. Please keep your microphone muted so we don't have the sound of barking dogs and ringing phones and FedEx deliveries and so forth. We do strongly believe that feedback is a gift. So if there's anything especially you liked about today's reading, if there's suggestions you might have to improve today's reading, there's my email address, danielbker@verizon.net. And after every reading, Barbara and Kathy and I look at the feedback. And we've been doing this since June, and it's been, I believe, improved and enhanced by the recommendations that folks have made. So please don't be bashful with your feedback. I repeat again, feedback is a gift. So our planned agenda is to start at 11, which we did. And we're scheduled to go to 12 o'clock. Please view that as a little bit flexible. Depending upon how many people want to read, we may actually flex until about 12:30. We won't go later than 12:30. Generally, we end up breaking up sometime between 12 and 12:15. So that's a flexible close time. The way the program will work, once I get everyone settled, I will turn it over to Barbara, and Barbara will read one of her favorite chat poems from a local poet, and then she'll introduce Tom. Tom will be the featured reader, and Tom will read probably up until about 11:30. And then what we'll do is we'll get to the open read. And again, if you want to be part of you want to read a poem, just put your name in chat. And for those of you who are technically challenged, what I'll do is I'll go around at the end, and with the help of Kathy and Barbara, we'll make sure that we get everyone, whether or not you put the name in chat, we'll make sure that we give everyone an opportunity to read. And then we'll call back Tom for an encore. And then we'll call back Barbara to close the program and announce the next poet that we'll have in April. I recognize that you're here for poetry, to listen to beautiful poetry, to share your own poetry. This is not an opportunity for evangelization, but I did want to let you know that we at All Souls view this poetry, a monthly poetry program, as one of our many outreach programs. We've only got a small congregation. There's about, if you count everybody, we've got about 80 people in the congregation. But we have a relationship with over 700 people in the community. And there's 700 people in the community. If you look at the top hand right, those are people we met through our monthly Native American drumming program that we do once a month, run by Rick Statler. Interesting, he's got an Indian bloodline on both sides of his family, and he's a chiropractor, kind of an interesting combination of skills. So we do monthly shamanic drumming. We do the rosary every week. Once a week, we do an interdenominational rosary. So rather than focusing on those things that Catholics and Orthodox Christians and Protestants fight about, we came up with an inclusive rosary. And it's interesting, when you look at the rosary, it's not just something done by Roman Catholics. Hindus, Buddhists, Native Americans all have their own version of the rosary. So we do that once a week. You'll recognize those two handsome people down in the lower right-hand corner. That's Robert Savino handing the ceremonial twig to Barbara Southern when she became Poet Laureate of Long Island, so Suffolk County rather. So we do the poetry once a month. We also do, if you look in the bottom there, we do Gregorian chant once a month as well. Come into the church, it's mystically lit. The beautiful sounds of the monks and music of Taizé. Rounding out the bottom row there, in normal times, we also do concerts in the church once a month. And going up to the top left, the doors of the church are open every day for prayer and reflection. And I can say that in conscience and confidence because I'm the guy, one of the hats I wear is I open up those doors every day. And oftentimes when I'm opening those doors, there's people waiting to come in. And whenever we do an event at the church, we say, lend a hand, bring a can. So what you see there is the food that we collect, we actually bring to the Roman Catholic Church in Port Jefferson. They have a very large food pantry. They feed about 500 families. And then I'll just close with once a year, the beautiful church on top of the hill. As Gladys Henderson can point out, it's a beautiful location, but a lot of people can't make it up that hill. So we've been raising funds the last several years to make the church truly accessible to all. And we have a group led by Barbara and Kathy, and also Sharon Doyle. We have a group that walks in the race. So we got a 5K race, 2K walk called the Live Poets Society. So again, welcome. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Barbara. So Barbara, I'm going to get rid of the visuals on the screen, and I'm going to ask you to turn on your mic.
This is my favorite part, when I can see everybody's face. This is wonderful. And so, hello, everybody. I'm going to start by reading a poem. It's one of Kathy's books that she had from Alan Plants. And I stole it from her temporarily. And I wanted to read this poem because it's about the Northwest Woods. Alan Plants wrote the most beautiful poems about on the water. He was a sea captain, and all about the east end of Long Island. He was an absolutely wonderful poet. And I want to make a comment after I read this about the Northwest Woods. I wake up brimming. Wind back to the east keeps me from the sea today. So I go into forest. Junk is everywhere. Cars, washing machines, chairs. All over the countryside, people dump in woods. Sanitary landfills close too early for those who ridded their garbage out after dark. Suddenly, the cut over woods deepened. The wind rises and I hear it beginning another rarer sound. I descend to a stand of white pines, never logged. Their straight trunks soar like the mass the whole Northeast was chopped down for. Now the age of sail is over. These trees voyage on, their destiny stronger than any fate people can will them by throwing junk in their groves. I look back up the slope, hundreds of feet above me. The tapering tops catch the sun, and I hear a cry, beauty, liberty, truth, justice. It is myself overflowing. And that's Alan Plants reading about the Northwest Woods. And what I wanted to say about it is I wish Alan were alive today, because the Northwest Woods is now clean of junk. It's very pristine. So he would be very happy to know that. And now I'm going to have the pleasure of introducing a wonderful poet. I've known him for many years. I first heard his poetry at the LIPC workshop in Huntington. That was a long time ago. Thomas Brinson served in a Second Corps Vietnam from 1967 to 1968 and survived the Tet Offensive. He served as a peacemaker with the Non-Violent Peace Force in Mutar, Trincomalee, Sri Lanka from 2003 to 2005, where he survived the December 26, 2004 tsunami. He's been a veteran activist for over 40 years as a member of the Vietnam Veterans Against the War, Vietnam Veterans of America, and Veterans for Peace since he returned from service in Vietnam. He landed in Washington, D.C.'s National Airport about 3 hours after Martin Luther King had been assassinated. With colleague Vince Triner, he did research, publishing and training on the correlation of addiction with PTSD in combat veterans. Retired with 100% VA disability for PTSD, he writes poetry. He wrote of his experience in Vietnam in his book, Love and War, published in 2009, and now lives in Tucson, Arizona, with his long-haired cat Houdini, and is cared for by his son Tommy as he gracefully ages and fades away. Tom Brinson.
Thank you, Barbara. Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'm going to start by reading one of my favorite poems from my favorite poet, E.E. Cummings. You shall above all things be glad and young. For if you're young, whatever life you wear, it will become you. And if you are glad, whatever's living will yourself become. Girl, boys may nothing more than boy girls need. I can entirely her only love, whose any mystery makes every man's flesh put space on and his mind take off time. That you should ever think, may God forbid, and in his mercy your true lover spare. For that way knowledge lies, the fetal grave called progress, and negation's dead undoom. I'd rather learn from one bird how to sing than teach 10,000 stars how not to dance. And now to my stuff. Chief nurse, bleached hair, strands crispy, limply fall about, flushed eyes running, mascara bluing the bright face with the ready smile, which when curved wide, somewhat hides the wrinkles of a body outspreading, though still supple seeming. Here in flare flickering shadows of frantic base camp officers club, while pouring can after can of San Miguel down my unquenchable throat, I imagine her name is Marge. The life tonight of some colonel who buys drinks and sneers while jerkily dancing with a ragged, rather crooked beak of one who leads desks and our diagrams. The pity of it is, when young, she probably loved children, maybe wanted 1 or 10. Now she can only watch them mutilated die, her surrogate sons of my generation. By blistering day, she garbs herself with scissors and gauze stuck in pockets of jungle fatigues to guide those younger than she, the nurses, who tend their would-be lovers lost in this would-be war. One precious event. In the deep dusk silence of jungle muted sounds as the waning sun disappears behind orange purple cloud streaks, making shadows sharp on the ragged ridges of distant horizon, the heart-startling hazards of day are forgotten, and the soul takes stock, pauses for a moment in the midst of man-made inanity to contemplate precious events, those before, those hereafter, even those amid the splintered chaos, like the beer-bellied, cigar-mouthed, tough, seasoned sergeant bending a calloused, tender hand to aptly, so gently apply medicine to the wound of an ailing child, a victim of circumstance and war. stark memory. You looked up at me with the precise peculiarity of your smile, touching me with a distinct embrace. My hand trembled upon the round smallness of your soft flesh, the breast quickening. I knew then I would remember you in some place far off, alien and strange. Now, in this early morning light, drowsily munching stale sea rats, I am comforted by your stark memory, gazing at silhouettes of shredded Viet Cong dangling mute in concertina wire. And where am I going? Okay, A Place in the Sun, sun-drenched Esalen hot baths on the late afternoon of March 1, 1997. And if I get a little emotional reading this poem, my former wife, Sarah, died a couple of Fridays ago. How incredibly apropos that I began humming a moment ago. I'm gonna find me a place in the sun. The Young Rascals song, which sustained my darkened spirits 30 years ago in sunny Vietnam, when in alcoholic despair, I wanted so desperately to die. But I survived, despite myself, to be here right now in this legendary place with Sarah, realizing through almost 25 years of recovery that as, quote, more has been revealed, quote, I keep experiencing beyond my wildest dreams other places in the sun. Aha, as if on cue, a Huey leaning southward materializes out of magenta-tinged clouds, low-lying along the horizon line of cerulean sky, to remind me, as Thich Nhat Hanh tutored me, to use each whomp, whomp, whomping sound as a meditation bell, to invoke another mantra of gratitude. Thanks, 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 thanks. And what's the time? Okay, for my last poem, I'm going to read Duncan. Tall, slim, long-haired, immensely good-looking. A Montanan now living in British Columbia, he asks me to accompany him to the sacred fire for a cleansing ritual to bless his first cav flight jacket, while strong women drummers drum the heartbeat of the world on Washington's National Mall, and sweet sage wafts the air of a perfect Indian summer afternoon. We stop at the altar, gather sage, lavender, tobacco. Solemnly we stand by the sacred fire, spread the lavender and tobacco on hot coals, light sage sprigs. He carefully lays his jacket on the hallowed ground. We kneel and bless it with smoke from the burning sage. As he chants an ardent prayer in his native Siksika Blackfoot language, I noticed he was an airborne ranger, has Purple Heart, bronze and silver stars with V devices. We stand and deeply embrace. Let healing again happen through us. I look deeply into his eyes, affirm that though we shall never forget, we are both blessed to have mostly survived in body mind, and spirit. When he and his lovely wife, lady, leave to pay respects to his dead at the wall, I tell her what she already knows, that he is a most beautiful man. Quickly, I turn away, choke on tears too close for my once beloved, another casualty of my war on what would have been our 29th anniversary. Thank you.
Beautiful and moving on so many different levels. You've got another 10 minutes if you'd like to read. If you'd like to
Oh,
read-
really?
Yeah, so it's
Ah.
11:30. You get 20 minutes, so it's up to you. If you'd like to read another few till 11:30, that's
Okay,
fine.
yeah, absolutely. I can always read more.
And I'll remind you, like, when we get to 11:29 or so, I'll give you a little nudge. How's that?
Okay. Bob Hope Show, 1983. Christmas Eve, waning days before the year of Big Brother. The TV flickers cross-fading images of the Bob Hope Show, another ritual of entertainment for American grunts being maimed and killed in another far-off land. His eyes, silkingly sincere, straighten to the lens of the nation's soul. Our president yearns for peace, but steadfastly vows to keep the troops in place. Hot damn, we're doing it again, keeping the world safe for some democracy, while our precious youth, spurred forward by patriotic myths and fantasies of armchair warriors, are again brutalized in a crossfire of blood hatred. The soundtrack croons John Lennon's "So This Is Christmas," and I'm flooded with memories and tears, never able to forget the Bob Hope Show I saw Christmas Eve of '67 at Phuket Air Base on the once verdant coastal plain of Vietnam, where too weary from witnessing too much death, I couldn't snicker, much less laugh, as he quipped, "Some police action, huh, boys?" Now I rock my sleeping son tighter, pray for a time when our beautiful land can be as diligent in waging peace as it still is obsessed with seeking war. Some looks. There are some looks which never fade, though a million memories pass. Looks that sharply cut into the marrow of a fragile and soul seeking some solace. Such a keening glance the Papa-san shot me. It passed clean through, shaking me asunder, soul shocked, making mush all my grunt lustful desires. He simply sat looking at me, long, wispy bearded, silver haired, in carefully laundered peasant pajamas with curving long pipe wafting homegrown herb about his wizened, stoic face. Intently weaving a conical basket, he didn't miss a methodical thatch, while his granddaughter, I suppose, and I crossed the dappled courtyard into a dark beaded curtain cubbyhole, wearing tight sequined miniskirt, so alien from long flowing demure iodine of Vietnamese gentlewomen. She would allow herself to be taken for a $5 MBC note by me, one other white devil of a foreign army, exploiting, pillaging, destroying their hallowed ancestor spirited land in the hollow name of freedom. Pleiku jacket, and I think this will be the last one that I do. Once you've experienced the horrors of war it seems you can never escape it. There's always something there to remind me, as the early 60s song by Burt Bacharach and Hal David goes. Yesterday morning, for example, I was dumbstruck by an unexpected sharp reminder of what I experienced in the Central Highlands of Vietnam almost 42 years ago during the brutal Tet Offensive. There I was in bread alone, one of the tonier of tourist-fueled establishments on the main street of my new hometown in Woodstock, New York, with a bagel and a latte. As I stirred raw sugar into the latte, I glanced back at an elegant 40-something woman placing her order. Bam, pow, the air swooshed out of me as if I had been punched in the solar plexus. She was wearing a faded green satin jacket emblazoned with the words Pleiku, Vietnam, one of the typical GI slogans of the day. When I die, I'll go to heaven because I spent my time in hell, encircled the colored embroidered image of South Vietnam's flag. I approached her. Excuse me, but I ran supplies to Pleiku in the late 67, early 68. Are you the daughter of a vet? Oh, I'm sorry, she replied. No, I went to high school in Manhattan in the early 80s, and there was a thrift store near the school that had lots of these jackets. A bunch of us bought them and wore them. We thought they were cool. I've kept mine after all these years and wear it from time to time. Cool? What could I say? Nothing really. So I wished her a good day and went out into the bright sunlight of a beautiful morning, deeply breathing away the dark images from that faraway place that never is too far away in memory. Thank you.
It's beautiful on so many different levels. I mean, starting with E. Cummings and being forever young, and I can see those nurses and that big belly sergeant and the sounds of what you experience and the beautiful experience of being at the wall and the sacred fire sounded very much like what we do with the drumming at All Souls and that Bob Hope show. I mean, you just captured so many rich experiences, and just the synergy between that young girl in the coat and the granddaughter in Vietnam was just beautiful beyond words. So I'm sure everyone on the line feels the same way. Thank you so much. We look forward to bringing you back for your encore. Okay, so we're going to change gears a little bit here. Bear with me while I change the screen. Okay, so we got someone who just entered the room. So that's the living proof that not everyone's punctual, but that's okay. They're welcome. So here is the ground rules, courtesy of Charlton Heston from the 10 Commandments for our open read. So put your name in chat, and I've already got about 15 names there. So if you haven't put your name in chat, put it in now. And I assure you at the end, if you don't figure out how to get your name in chat, we'll go around the group, and between Kathy and Barbara and I will make sure everyone has the chance to read. Please only one poem, and please no more than 5 minutes, because we do have quite a few poets that want to share their work. Please do keep your microphone muted. And when I call upon you, and you'll know when you're going to be called upon because I'll announce them in groups of 3, please keep your mic muted until you're called upon. But when you know you're going to be called upon, please be ready to turn on your mic. We'll bring Barbara back at the end to close the program. And again, if we have, although we're scheduled to go to 12, if we have lots of readers, we'll flex up until 12:30. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, let me stop sharing here. And we're going to call upon the poets in groups of 3. And apologies in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. So our first poet, it's Ellen, then Lorraine, and then Robert Savino. So Evelyn, over to you. So Evelyn, you've got to turn on your mic. I can see you smiling. And I'll let you know when your mic is on. Oh, you turn, there you go, Evelyn.
Is that okay?
That's fine. We can't see you, but we can hear you. So go ahead.
Okay, I'm back.
Great.
First, I would like to thank Tom for his very powerful poems. And from one Korean vet to him, thank you for your service. Okay, if only I were 30, or at least had purple hair. If only I were funky to make someone stare. Things would be different. I could celebrate being in, with a hot beach tan, not a pale complexion, with my fine poems sparked with disaffection, with every lilting vowel inflection. If only I could be blogging, or at least reading on YouTube. If only I were edgy and indifferent with a contemptuous attitude. If only my poems were posted on the web, filled with lines so fun and flirty, even a tiny bit dirty. If only I were 30.
Thank
That's
you,
it,
Evelyn.
folks.
That was beautiful, and thank you for your service in Korea. And you're 30 in spirit. So, okay. Okay, Evelyn, over to you.
Oh, pass me.
I'm sorry, Evelyn, over to Lorraine. I'm sorry.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good morning. Thank you, Tom. It was so good seeing you again and hearing your wonderful poems. I just want to say that Tom and I spent a lot of time riding in the car together to various poetry events. And so he told me many stories about his experiences in Vietnam. And so I wrote a poem for Tom, and that's why I joined today. He did write a response, but it's a little bit risque, so I don't think he's going to read it. Anyway, this is called Familiar by Thomas Brinson. I know you from somewhere. Your memories are so familiar. Were you that hip, long-haired guy wearing a tie-dyed tee in the balcony of the Fillmore? Did we meet in Washington Square Park? The night gray slick whet our appetites, made us hungry for love, fed up with war. Were you holding a Dayglow sign on the bus to Washington, lost in a sea of confusion, chanting peace now up and down the boulevard? Did I walk beside you in a march, hold your hand when you got the news your best friend was killed near Chu Lai? You're familiar, we've met before. I feel it in your words.
Beautiful tribute, Lorraine. Thank you so much. Okay, now to Robert Savino.
Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, Tom, good stuff. It's been a lot of years. Good to see you again. Good to hear you. When I met Ferlinghetti. As a young boy, I went to Coney Island with my grandfather. He played pinochle on the boardwalk, then took me to Steeplechase Park, the parachute jump, the cyclone, taught me not to fear taking risk. The next time I went to Coney Island, I embarked on a journey with Ferlinghetti in storybook pages of excitement. We both enjoyed baseball. On the West Coast, he followed Mays and Marischal, ate popcorn and read Pound. On the East Coast, I followed Mantle and Ford, ate peanuts and kept score, premature for poetry. We both celebrated Italian unification with poetry. I shared in the experience of wild dreams, painting the sunlight or any playground of consciousness. I'm surprised with my life as a poet, aged and still active. I want to live as long as Ferlinghetti. Perhaps now I will wear his hat as he found a new dwelling to call Coney Island, a place once again premature for me. Now challenged to return to our playground, open gates to his words and remain on this roller coaster ride for as long as it lasts. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, Robert. Okay, next three are Glenn, and then Dan, and then Barbara. So Glenn, over to you.
Thomas, thank you so much for your very, very powerful poems and stories. They really hit the heart. Thank you so much. This is called The Birches. A birch doesn't stand alone for long, needing conversation with others of its kind, passing under rocks and over air pockets, its pollen tongue licking branches and roots. I kiss you because I wish to be kissed, hold you because I wish to be held by you, living a marathon of summers by your side, forgetting what it was like to live alone. I stood on the street corner in a slant of light, wasting so many green years, waiting for you to take me home in your pocket, hoping to be saved by from myself. There was no telling how long we would last, counting the generations of bloom and frost, shadows suddenly there to feed upon the light, the sun ready to rise up and warm itself in your small hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Well done. Okay. So the next reader is Dan, and that's Dan Kerr. And Robert's poem, I know Robert, Mickey Mantle was one of his heroes, and obviously Tom's poetry speaks so eloquently of the horrors of Vietnam, which I experienced from my brother who had 2 tours there. So this poem is called, just change the view here. This poem is called Mickey and the General. When I was a kid growing up in the 1960s, we had heroes, men we looked up to and wanted to be like. Men like Mickey Mantle and men like my oldest brother, Dennis. Back then, baseball meant more than it does today. The first baseball commissioner said, every boy builds a shrine to some baseball hero. And before that shrine, a candle always burns. To little boys of my generation, many a candle burned for Mickey Mantle. Bob Costas said, there was something poignant about the Mick before we knew what the word poignant meant. As the youngest of 8 children, I always looked up to my oldest brother. Whenever he came home from school, he always appeared in uniform. Long before I ever read a book, I knew there was something mythological about a Mickey Mantle home run. He was the reason Billy Crystal and many other Jewish boys of his generation spoke in an Oklahoma drawl during their bar mitzvah speeches. My brother carried the American flag at La Salle Military Academy and commanded a battalion at the Citadel in South Carolina. I was too young that hot Charleston day in 1965 to understand the significance of the "Have Fun in Vietnam" sign in the crowd the day he received both his diploma and his commission. 50 years after he hung up his spikes and 25 years after his death, Mickey Mantle still holds World Series records for most walks, extra base hits, home runs, RBIs, runs scored, and total bases. He was the most valuable player 3 times, led the American League in home runs 4 times, won the Triple Crown in the magical season of 1956, and led the New York Yankees to 7 World Series titles. My brother Dennis won the Distinguished Service Medal, the Silver Star, the Legion of Merit, the Distinguished Flying Cross, the Bronze Star, the Army Achievement Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Army Commendation Medal. During his New York Yankee career, Mickey Mantle played center field, left field, and first base. During his Army career, my brother drove tanks, flew helicopters, and rescued downed airmen in Laos and Vietnam. Mickey battled the Red Sox, the Pirates, the Dodgers, and the Cardinals. My brother battled the Russians, the Viet Cong, Castro and Noriega, and Saddam Hussein. After his baseball career ended, Mickey encouraged life-saving organ donations. After his Army career ended, my brother fought for the rights of unborn children. Before he died of liver cancer at 63 years old, Mickey Mantle understood the difference between being a role model and being a hero. The first, he was not a role model. The second, a hero he will always be. Mickey, while he was alive, told the story. of what would happen when he met St. Peter at the pearly gates. St. Peter would say, "We know you're about your lifetime of drinking and carousing, so we can't let you in. But while you're here, God asked if you could please sign 7 baseballs for him." Although my brother is no saint, he was awarded the gold medal from the Order of St. Michael. The day he received his star as a general in the United States Army, there was no mention of the high school kid that painted the cannon pink at La Salle Military Academy before a big parade, nor the teenager that left sharks in bars or water skied naked. But when my brother gets to meet St. Peter at the pearly gate, I imagine Peter saying, "Well done, General. Many of the men you led whose name are on that wall in Washington will be glad to see you." As a Yankee fan, I'm glad that Mickey Mantle was admitted to the Baseball Hall of Fame. As a little brother that suddenly turned 65, I'm glad my brother Dennis was admitted to the 82nd Airborne Hall of Fame. Little boys and old men still need heroes and they need role models. I thank God he gave me both, my brother Dennis. Thank you. Okay, back to our list. And we're over to JR.
Oh, okay. I thought I was next.
Oh, did I skip? I make mistakes. I'm sorry, Barbara, and then JR. That's the second mistake I made. Sorry, I got
It's all
emotional
right.
when I talked about my brother. Go ahead.
Hi,
Hey, Barbara.
everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. And Thomas, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thomas, your poems were so poignant and brought back all these memories, and we really appreciate you and love you. I've chosen to do a poem that includes lines from Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who just died on February 22nd at 101. And thank you, Robert Savino, for doing a poem about him. I've called this Lush Among Lolly Flowers. The cover just jumped out at me from the book rack. I spun it round in my mind like a Ferris wheel. That stark night shot of the iconic Wonder Wheel. Me, 17, Brooklyn born, I had to have a copy. A New Directions paperback just out, just a buck. A Coney Island of the Mind. What did that title really mean? Just as that parachute ride, its pink silks and gravity left me panting, so did reading these lines. What could she say to the fantastic Foolie Bear? And what could she say to Brother? And what could she say to the cat with the future feet? I knew I could never tell my mother that whether on that hot riverbank or in the sand dunes or in the back of the GTO, I had lain among the lolly flowers, praying not to get pregnant. Dear sweet Jesus, I knew I was supposed to pray to Saint Maria Goretti, but I'd loved it, even as the birds went mad and threw themselves from trees to taste still hot upon the ground the spilled sperm seed. How did this poet know so well youthful guilt, fear, exhilaration wrapped up in breathless passion? Years later, I wanted to ask him, but I missed him by minutes at City Lights bookstore in San Francisco. Now this poet is gone. I reach for my copy, then remember it's not on my shelf. My firstborn, who made me drive them to Coney Island before going off to college, taking that book with them. They said, I'll send you a picture. It's on my Zoom wall.
Beautiful, Barbara. I never heard of that Saint Maria. That's a new one for me.
It's a long story about that. I'll send you an email.
Okay,
She was
Thank
never
you.
canonized, I don't think.
okay, well, there's always hope. Okay, so we got three more, and again, my apologies for getting the sequence. I do make mistakes. So it's JR, and then Linda, and then Evie Ivy. So JR, over to you. Again, sorry for the confusion before.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Thank you, Thomas. So brave. Thank you. So today, how vacuums work. One, they suck up all the debris we leave behind, all those dangling fragments that fall from the ledge of our verses, the string of periods like pearls leaping to the beige carpet of our metaphoric quatrain, those pesky exclamation points overreaching even the most blasé phrase. Spell check is a trapeze act of magnificent proportion. When in doubt, leave it out. It's how vacuums work, cleaning up the clippings from our final drafts and second and third revisions. Burn the bag when it's full, sprinkle the ash in your rose garden to bloom something fresh. 2, fill your glass halfway with sangria, drop in wedges of orange, whole maraschino cherries, top with lots of ice, and insert your straw. Pucker up. Insert the straw between your lips and suck. Delicious, frosty cold as it lines your mouth, tingles your teeth, flows down your throat until you vacuum into an orange. Nirvana stops. Extract orange from straw, toss both in the trash, and lift the glass to your waiting lips. Drink, baby, drink. 3, it's a white void. No black, no gray dust, where we fester in a room of dark similes, sun blotted out by blinds of invisibility, a hermit at home with no welcome mat to scare off friends or Jehovah's, a vacuum for all sharing sucked away to a life of perpetual nothing, an absence of matter because it doesn't matter. Thank you.
Thank you, JR. Very moving. Okay, Linda.
Thomas, I was afraid to say anything about how wonderful your poems were because of this, because you touched my heart. Thank you so much. Now I hope I can read. I wrote this for angels with 18 wheels. Homer, Doug, Chris, and Keith. The cattle on 1,000 hills are what my father owns. We thought we'd seen all of them, but there were more, he's shown. Herds of 18-wheelers, north, south, east, and west. Trucker angels guiding us as we pursued our quest. Warning us of hazards, of dangers up ahead. Their courtesy and vigilance brought grateful tears instead. No fear and no anxiety as we rounded downhill curves. These truckers led us cautiously, watched that we didn't swerve. They led us through the weather. They watched as we changed lanes, doffed their hats at truck stops, their courtesy untamed. We've crisscrossed this America. Wherever we have roamed, trucker angels watched us till we made it safely home. Steering tons of metal, cargo in their hold. The cargo in the driver's seat, much more precious now than gold. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Wonderful imagery of the trucks as angels. Evie Ivy, please.
Hi there, and yeah, thank you to the wonderful feature for his such wonderful, honest work, and the open readers have been great. And speaking of honesty, let me just go on and read one of the poems from a short poem from my book, The Platinum Moon, and it's one of my personal favorites, and it's the couch in the dream. The couch in the dream. Even in a dream, the truth is important. How is that when dreams can be so abstract? I dream I don't want a couch taken away.
2 men have come to remove it. I tell them, why are you taking it away? Was it the company that said so? Please tell me the truth. Tell me, I demand. The couch seemed to have been special to me. I start to wail and wail as they start picking it up at each end. Please tell me it was the company. Tell me the truth. My sad and loud, constant wails awoke me. Even in a dream, the truth is important. Even in a dream where things are so surreal. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Edie. Sharing your dream with us. Okay, next three in this order would be Susan Dingle, Dr. Richard, and Bernard. So Susan, over to you.
You. What a wonderful reading. Thomas, I'm reading this for you. This is called In the Neighborhood. Another widow stopped by. We visited on the patio for a few minutes before sunset. She said her husband had been gone for 11 years. I thought it was 3. She said the loneliness only gets worse. I said, isn't it great? You could love someone that much. She smiled. Only another widow could understand this. So I was happy in that moment, and so was she. I at 11 months, she at 11 years. She never had counseling. I have. It makes no difference, except whatever difference it might make to have a witness, a neighbor down the street. I called my son's father's widow to share this with her. Now we are sisters.
Beautiful, Susan. Very moving. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Richard.
Well, Tom, it's wonderful to see and hear you again with all those years. This is a special, special morning for me. I found a poem, actually, I think that I read at one of the old LIPC workshops you attended, so I thought I would read that poem. It's called Baptism at Sunrise. Geese have had a wild party. Cuneiform marks the sand. There they are, a hungover crowd waddling along the shore at dawn. You skirt the gathering, not wanting to disturb. They're coming to grips with the day. The tide is in and you enter. Hands magnified through the lens of water move within its languid undulations, immersed in silence. The sky brightens. A shaft of light, golden scepter of the sun, ignites the water. Geese give up the beach, fly overhead in a noisy troop, honking day's raucous celebration. Good to see you.
Thank you, Richard. Well done. Bernard, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Thomas, and yourself, Daniel, for sharing your story. As we all know, time fades, but as we see, memories don't, and they still hold that weight as it did when we first felt it. I wrote this poem last August as I realized I said a lot of love to things and people that affected my life, family, my daughters, friends. And I said, wow, I haven't given the love to something that has given me love, and I want to return the love in writing to something that has given me joy. The name of this poem, My Morning Coffee. I'm going to read it with my cup in my hand. At the break of dawn, here comes my morning yawn. I stretch my arms up really high as I yearn to get a cup of coffee by my side. The aroma of fresh brewing coffee, waking up my senses, drip by drip by drip, my nerves start twitching, unrelentless. Could it be the peaking rays of the morning sun or the dropping temperature of the morning cold? Add sugar, creamer, and stir. My morning coffee process has me sold. Ah, the power of the first sip, like the emotion of a first kiss, like finding a genie in a bottle and being granted your one wish. Hazelnut, caramel, espresso, and vanilla, light and sweet or straight black bitter, piping hot or ice cold brew, sipping with my pinky finger in the air. Trying to look cool. Over 2 billion cups drink every day. I got quite a few under my belt. I can drink comfortably or in a crowded cafe or in my home in solitude, alone by myself. I'm assuming my coffee loves me with the affection of an emotional hug. It speaks to me in my language, perfect temperature, and my favorite mug. I know it seems I intimately know my coffee, like we're bonded in lifelong ties. I just feel a lot better every morning with my coffee by my side. Thank you.
Well done, Bernard. I'm gonna think of you when I have my morning coffee. Well done. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got 3 more folks scheduled. And again, after we go with these 3, I'll go around, make sure that we get everyone included. So it's Pramila, and then James from North Carolina, and then Sherry. So Pramila, over to you. Excuse me.
Thank you. It was lovely to hear you, Thomas. This poem is called Triptych, Paintings in the Cochin Synagogue. Arrival. In Cranganore, cuckoos anchor the day, bright for ivory and spices. Tusks lean wail heavy against hutment walls, luring sailors from Palestine via Yemen. Odor of fish hangs heavy. In a white dress, her shoulders caressed by sea wind, she leans against a stack of logs, watching immigrants in ochre robes navigate past basking cows and dogs to carry out business, gesturing with their hands. Beyond coconut trees and elephants, in the port, wives wait with their babies for their husbands. Another exile. Oh, the sea turns a deep blue, the blue of urgency. We don't despair. The sea has rescued us from the Portuguese, torching our homes in Cranganore, beaching us here on Cochin sands. Gifts pour in, we draw stars on wet mud, follow footprints of the Raja's men from the palace to our homes. Later, Ma Nabu El Heharim, how beautiful upon the mountains, rock us to sleep. Domestic. Sing the parrot song, she begs her mother on Purim. They dance around the room, stepping to Palo de Parampadarivain Payangiliye. At night, the little girl dreams of her dear bird pecking at a dessert of milk and banana. The moon's rim lights the clouds. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramila. Very moving to take us to that port. Okay, I do know we have some people that just also were added to the list, but the next 2, Jim, over to you. Jim and then Sherry. James,
Okay.
North Carolina. There you go, James.
We just recently had a tornado, and in the tornado, our best golfer in the area was killed. This is to him. It's called Be a Better Putter. My naughty iron is a 9, which some say has become benign. Balls seem to be slow as molasses. Need to take a few more classes. From golf course would be cut. Played never learning how to putt. And you just see her, my terrible scar that I received for not making par. I, setback and occurred a major mishap. Ball did end up being in a sand trap. Occurred a complete catastrophe. to a ball hard from tea into a tree. To avoid all the trash and clutter, I then tried to buy a better putter. Terrible putts to drive us all insane. On golf course, my golf bag still remains. And can I read one more? I'll be through. Okay, this is called Had Hope to Find. While searching seemed so hard to tell which one would be our most favorite shell, had to constantly, consistently compare as they lay on the seashore here and there. Shells were round, oblong, and also odd, had been prepared by our beloved God with bright colors and delicate designs. Often are spiral or could be curvy lines. Through shells that separate and strain, ocean waves played such a sweet refrain, asking why we became such a big creep, all of God's precious shells trying to keep. Each day morning does beautifully speak. He will always respect God and his sake. Shells which we love must be left behind for other searchers for them had hope to find.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. And I appreciate the beautiful shells over your shoulder. And please give our best regards to Father Farrell.
Okay, will do. And I like your Eiffel Tower picture.
Thank you. Okay. Sherry Lynn, over to you.
Hi, so lovely to see you all. Thank you, Judy, for the invite. This is quite the inspiring morning. And Daniel and Barbara for hosting. And Thomas, I hadn't heard your poetry before, but I felt like I was hearing like a painting of your experiences. Thank you for sharing. My poem is called Between the Dark and the Stars. Between the dark and the stars, hope's promise is incalculable. Surrounded by hues, tones, energies, amidst dimensions unknown, where time isn't measured in moments. Between touch and shun sits intention, choices to pilot. Tender calm found in leaf flutter hums, to taunting fear bubbling lava haze. Between slumber and dawn, faith leaps to open possibilities, waiting within heart thumps, through labyrinth dreams, in marrow calm or quake. Between cages and wings, flight may be sought within or a bound to wear. Love areas pulsate bliss, dancing amidst the dark and the stars. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry. Well done. Okay, over to Maggie.
Good morning, Thomas. Thank you so much. You brought back a lot of memories for a lot of us. Just before I read, I'm just going to do a little tiny pitch for Poetry Street in 2 weeks because Barbara Southard is one of the features. So I hope you can all come. It's on Zoom. A flyer will be generated. My poem is called From the Right Side Window of the Train on the Way to New York City. Black, gray, white, winter shades of vehicles in a row dot parking areas at each treeless station. Here and there, a coral sedan, a marigold SUV, cheer the slate landscape, break the anonymity of same, new to the route are countless rectangled solar rooftops, reminding me that many of us have been off the grid for such a long time. My sad drug addict client, determined to exact revenge on his ex, his mom, on all who tried to help him, laid on the railroad track near the rehab, cigarette between his clenched teeth, sending smoke signals too wispy to be noticed by the casual observer. His pain was flattened by the 205 local. The staff believed in intervention despite those eyes already empty. Locking doors is futile when an addict perseveres. The conductor, witness to the thud, the crush, the gore, never drove again.
Began working in a CVS where meds were readily available. My client's ex wept, sorry but solid, in her decision to make the break. His mother had long expected this call, this sorry trip east. After the burial, she rode the rails back west, bought herself a bright red Beamer.
Thank you, Maggie. Very, very moving. Okay, over to Bill Batcher, who's been patiently waiting. Bill, there you go.
Okay, this poem is called, it has a 3-letter title, DST. When I awoke one morning in the spring, I found that overnight I'd lost an hour. It wasn't in the basement or the tower, the nursery or den or kitchen wing. I spent my days checking everywhere, the garden and garage, the swimming pool. Perhaps my kids had taken her to school. I tracked down every street and thoroughfare. Months went by without a single clue. I began to think that she was lost at sea. But then one morning she came back to me. For half a year, my little hour had roamed. I don't know how she found her way back home, because when she arrived, I slept right through.
Well, I've heard of timely poems, but it's probably on many levels the most timely I've ever heard. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
John, who's been waiting patiently since 11 o'clock. Go ahead, John. John, you got to turn on your mic.
Yes,
There you go.
I hadn't known if you had seen me, so. Thomas, I had never met you before, and when I read your bio ahead of time, I said, I've got to do some kind of tribute poem. And the one poem where you had the imagery of the barbed wire kind of struck me, so I'm going to read this. Of the impenetrable barb. Unlike Whitman's sweet, luscious, ontological wonder of leafy, green, earthly grass, one must ponder more incessantly the origins of bloodied barbed wire. Not only so sharp, cutting, and piercing, but how it manifests in existence, neither down from the heavens nor up from the earth. From a distance, it seems possible to slip and wiggle through thin places, dark back alleys, checkpoints, and narrow passages of time. But this is not hopeful green stuff woven. Suspended like long slithering razors, the barbed wire convocation of cockeyed butterflies induces the injurious twists and curls of a windblown cyclone. Where it comes, who's subject to confinement, where it goes, who's subject to exclusion, needs to be examined more fully. Not all subjects are received the same. Such a perilous journey discovers not the scented handkerchief of the Lord. One must ultimately enter into the thorny terrain of the impenetrable barb. Thank you. And for your brother too, Dan, tribute to him as well.
Thank you. It's so beautiful, the imagery with going into Holy Week as well. Thank you for that. Okay, so we have, at this point, I've gone around the group. I'm going to change my view here. And I think I've given everyone who wanted to an opportunity to read. If there's anyone else, okay, Leslie, I see you're the first hand wagging. So you go ahead, Leslie, you turn your mic on.
Okay.
Oh, you turned it off. Turn it back on. Okay, you're fine.
Also.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get Leslie first. Go ahead, Leslie.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I also want to thank Judy Turek for inviting me. Thank you. And Thomas, thank you so much for your poems. I thank you for your service And so sorry that you had such heart-wrenching experiences. And Daniel, I loved your poem about your brother. My poem today is in anticipation of spring. It's a lighthearted poem, and I think we all are waiting anxiously for spring to come. It's entitled Her Garden. It's a faint whisper she strains to hear. Trees speak of breezes, a harmony of soft rustling. Everything listens. Songbirds sing sweet refrains to the heart. They stop and say prayers. The joy in the symphony embraces her soul. Her garden porch is the secret, a tranquil space, private thoughts, a gift to her senses. The wind's breath scatters seeds of fresh paint. Glossy greens, goldenrods of deep yellow, gracious gladiolas, glorious crimson geraniums, golden daylilies, grand scent of lavender perfume. All drift to her soul, a pastoral trance. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. And thanks for welcoming in spring so eloquently. Okay, Emily Sue.
Hi, thank you all so much for the poetry. Tom, yours was so moving. I would like to read Rain Delay. Since the shelter in place order came, we've been like a ball team, watching the rain from the dugout, aching to see the tarps rolled up, hear the umpire call, play ball. A 2-week pause has entered its 4th season. Clothing rotated in and out with the changing weather, hangs on hope, slowly fraying. Library card, jewelry, cash, day-to-day items left out on tabletops await the all clear that won't be coming we now see for a year, maybe 2. All this bonus time, nowhere to go. Still I can't get organized, can't bring myself to sift through closets and drawers, to part with so many things I thought I needed.
Thank you, Emily Sue. Okay, so let's go around the group here. And anyone else before we call back Thomas for an encore? Sharon Doyle. And I see Kathy as well. Go ahead, Sharon, you go first.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to, I think it is spring today. It just seems so springy. Welcome to that. It's wonderful to see everyone. Thank you so much, Thomas. And I have a short poem to read. A wedding. Why so loud? A small church built in 1929, surrounded by trees and pastoral lawns. A quiet ceremony, only once interrupted by a cell phone's piercing music. The reception at a lovely colonial clubhouse on the water. A young man fiddles with buttons and knobs on his music machine, 2-foot megaphone, and the music was on. Why so loud? Voices rising, competing with the music. Would a martini help? Earplugs? Everyone shouting or silent. The bar gets busier. A baby sleeps deeply. Is she deaf? We dance, nothing else to do. For over a century, motors, endless noise. Are we deadening ourselves to emptiness, angst, sadness, joy of being? At home, my cat settled on my lap, purring. Why so loud? Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. And Kathy Donnelly.
So, hello, everyone. I'd like to just say, Thomas, I knew when I invited you to read, it would be like this, that you would touch everyone. And I want to thank you so much. From Long Beach to Woodstock to Oregon to the Midwest to Arizona, the blessings of the cell phone and now Zoom, we can all still be a community no matter where we go. I want to read this poem. It's a very old poem, but I want to stick it in because I think it speaks to not only your experience in Vietnam, Dan, Evelyn, and any other, veteran. This world is just crushes us, and it's hard to take sometimes. So I wrote this poem a long time ago. It has not been workshopped, so bear with me. It's called The Nobel Peace Prize. Goes to the writer of a haiku that stops all elected or self-elected leaders from declaring war on anyone. Every soldier from pulling the trigger, dropping the bomb. Every madman from losing his mind, being destructive. Every pedophile from molesting an innocent. Every father for abandoning his responsibilities. Every mother for neglecting her own. Every heart from putting hatred above a living being. The winning haiku should make clergy think deeper, thoughts for sermons on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. Politicians consider middle class the lowest level of lifestyle anywhere. Teachers teach their students why they learn what they learn, encourage creative thought, play, appreciation, autonomy. All people able to see through the eyes of others. The prize should be really nice. That's it.
Thank you, Kathy. That was beautiful. Okay, just one more pass before we call back Thomas for an encore. Is there anyone else who wanted to read, didn't get a chance? Just wave your hand or shout out. Okay, Thomas. I don't. Go ahead, Sue. Anyone else? Okay, Thomas, over to you. If you could turn on your mic and we'll come bring you back for an encore.
Was Barbara going to read?
I think Barbara did read. Okay.
Oh, our poet laureate.
She's fine. She read at the beginning. Okay, Thomas, over to you.
Okay, I'm going to read the last two paragraphs of my biography, Each Breath a Gift. Autobiography, geez. Despite a dysfunctional childhood, surviving 2 combat zones, Vietnam and Sri Lanka, alcohol addiction, and a slew of other mental health syndromes, I have been enabled most gratefully to live most fully, a bounteously gratifying, a stupendously content, yea, even verily at times, a deliriously joyous life. As long and strange in many ways, it has been, and it continues, in fact, to be. Each breath, indeed, has been a gift. And most assuredly, I wish the same for each of you. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Barbara, over to you to close the program and introduce the next poet. Barbara Southard, you got to turn on your mic. Give Barbara a second.
I am going to be brief because somehow after these readings, I don't like to talk too much because I want to keep all these wonderful words right here in my head for as long as possible. Thank you, Tom. Your poetry was so moving. I was so happy to hear your poetry again. Your poetry is needed. And thank every one of you for reading your poems. We had such a range of poetry. Now, Kathy, is it Charles Fishman who's coming next time?
Yes.
There you go. There he is.
Can people see my book here?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just showed a picture of Thomas of Charles Fishman.
Yeah, could you get that off?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so Charles Fishman, this is a book that Kathy had in her collection, and I just have it for a little bit. And he's going to be reading next month. So I hope you come and please go out. I think we are kind of gradually getting towards the end of this. Go out and enjoy the day. Have a lovely day, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks, Barbara, very much. Thank you, everyone.